8 years ago, Mercedes released this, the W205 C-Class, and this particular example was one of the first off the lot. She's now covered 100,000 miles of British roads and collected some scars along the way. So, with many people exclaiming that German cars are unreliable pieces of trash, I thought I'd take a look for myself and see what's what. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Before we start, please like, subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like us to keep bringing you this content. So, a 100,000 mile Mercedes might sound like a money pit on wheels, but I like to go into these things with an open mind. We bought this car as a part exchange and will probably keep it as a runaround for a while, so it does actually need to work well. Let's have a look at the engine then. This is the 2.1 litre diesel, the true workhorse of the Mercedes range. In this car it produces 170 bhp and 400 Nm of torque. All that grunt is mated to the now well-known 7-speed G-tronic automatic gearbox. It's supposed to do 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds, but let's look at something more realistic and also see if this engine has got all the ponies she left the factory with, and do the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, look at that, we managed a time of 6.94 seconds. That puts it just in front of the BMW 420d manual and just behind the 3 litre diesel Range Rover. Looks like this C-Class still has all the power it left the factory with. Moving inside, you'll find what was a very futuristic cabin for 2014. Even now it doesn't look too dated. This is the Premium Plus car, so you get the full panoramic roof, Burmester sound and upgraded command navigation. There's also heated electric seats and even a reverse camera. Coming to the rear, it offers a fairly good amount of room for adults under about 6 foot. Above that though, you will struggle slightly. Then moving to the boot, it's kind of a similar story. There's 455 litres of room, which is a lot, but it's not quite as good as the current Audi A4. Although saying that, it is still enough for 2 big suitcases and 1 small one. Of course, you can also fold the seats down if you need to carry longer items. Right, time to do some driving, I think. It's amazing to think it's been nearly 8 years now since this car was built. I mean, inside, you'd think it was a fairly new car still. Anyway, initial impressions. The first thing I'm noticing, the engine sounds a little bit rattlier than a new C-Class, and I think that's just carbon deposit build-up. So it's just not running quite as smooth as it was before. Suspension though, feels just like it was when it was new. This is a AMG line Premium Plus car, so pretty much top of the range C-Class you could have got at the time. And it's just got the slightly sportier AMG line suspension. No knocks, no rattles, as of yet anyway. Steering feels really nice still, nice and light. Still got that Mercedes sort of exclusive feel to it. Still feels like a premium product. Gearbox still shifts very smoothly. The thing is, these engines are quite noisy anyway. It's the 2.1 litre diesel. They've always been not rattly, but quite purposeful, shall I say. They make your typical diesel tractor noise. The thing is, apart from the marks on the interior, everything else feels pretty solid. Steering wheel is worn fairly nicely. We did give the interior a quick once over in terms of cleaning. But yeah, one thing that doesn't really age well is this piano black plastic. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's tons of swirl marks in this, and it's not really the fault of the previous owner. Pretty much any car that has this piano black plastic, it just marks really easily, and there's not a lot you can do about it really, sadly. I'm amazed how tight this car feels though. If you told me this car was a year old, I'd believe you. Parking wise, you shift into reverse using this little gear stalk. It was the first C-Class that had this actually. It's really nice. This being the Premium Plus car, you get the reverse camera, you get parking sensors all round. Turning circle's fairly good on this car. That just means parking is really easy. One thing you do want to get with a C-Class like this is the upgraded command navigation screen, because if you do have a reverse camera, the standard screen's refresh rate is really slow, and I'll see if I can find a video of it here, but basically when you're reversing it lags like almost a second behind where you actually are, so you can almost nearly hit stuff sometimes. Coming out of junctions, yep, still feels like a premium car. Okay, let's do the usual, reset the trip computer and see if this diesel can still put out its claimed MPG figures. Can't remember what those figures are off the top of my head, but I will put them in the top right up here. As usual, before we get on the motorway, we are going to see how this car handles around a roundabout. So I'm going to put us into Sports Plus. This will sharpen up the steering, throttle response, maybe drop a gear, hopefully. And then we can change the ESC, but I'm not going to do that now because I don't have time. Put my foot down, yeah. Whilst the engine sounds different, it still performs pretty well. Yeah, still gets up to 70 miles an hour, perfectly fine. Still feels just as sharp as it did when it was new. For now though, we're going back into Eco and we're going to see what kind of MPG we get on the motorway. Back on the motorway then, and this is where the C-Class is absolutely at home. The suspension relaxes, the road noise is pretty much non-existent, as you'd expect from Mercedes. Similar story with the wind noise as well, almost none coming into the cabin. Overall, just a very relaxing experience. And even though this car is 8 years old and has done 100,000 miles, everything still feels solid. It's interesting, some Mercedes seem to have these slightly squeaky interiors, but this one seems to be alright. I think it's just luck of the draw with these kinds of cars. Sometimes you get a car that might be built on a Friday afternoon when everyone wants to go home. Then seat comfort. In these cars it's always very good, and even though this car has done the mileage it has, the seats feel pretty much new still. Sometimes in cars like this the seats can wear quite a lot and the padding kind of stays squished after a while, so it doesn't give you quite the amount of support it should be doing. But thankfully this C-Class is still really comfortable. And of course everything still works. Adjust your lumbar support, you can recline the seat, change the pitch to bass. Now, because this is a Premium Plus car, it means it came with the Burmester sound system, panoramic roof, and these heated memory seats. And those are actually the three things I would pick for this car if I could only choose three specs. But are they all still working? Well, panoramic roof, yep, still works absolutely fine. On older C-Class models, the generation before this one, some of them had quite a few issues with the pan roof not working, and I think that was actually because they would run out of grease and obviously get metal to metal contact, and that's not good for anything. But yeah, this one works absolutely fine. The Burmester sound system still works really well. Nothing's broken with it. The amp is still really good. Mids, bass, highs, really good. Still not quite as good as an Audi B&O system, but it is pretty much up there with it. Then heated seats still work, and as I mentioned, everything with the electric seats still work. So far, it seems like kind of a bargain really. It's rough around the edges, but I mean, once you're in it and once you're driving it, it doesn't feel any different. And one thing you sadly don't often see, but I think should be in every car, is is a sunglasses holder. And in Mercedes, they actually line them with felt as well. In the later models, they actually changed this to rubber. So this is actually better than the newer car, believe it or not. But so far, to me, this car feels like it could do another 150,000 miles without a problem. Motorway journey over then. Did we manage the manufacturer claim figure then? Pretty much. 51.3 mpg. You have to admit, this engine is impressive. And it's still going up. We're at 52.3 now. I reckon on a long run you'd still get over 60 miles per gallon in it. So we know the engine still gives good economy, but can it perform on a B road still? Let's find out. Right, we're in the sportiest setting. Let's see how this C-Class handles a roundabout with the ESP in Sport. Oh, there's a little bit of movement. Not a lot though, not a lot. It is a base model diesel after all. It's kind of just holding on for dear life. Can go around those corners with a surprising amount of pace though. Back down our favourite B-Road then. Still in Sports Plus, ESP still in Sports. See how she does. I have to admit, this 2.1 litre engine does a great job. Look at that, you can go so fast around these corners. The car still feels as flat as it did when it was new. Squeeze by. Steering feel is still on point. Brakes are good. That's kind of just a maintenance thing though. I can't believe how good this car feels for the mileage it is. I mean, if it was your first time driving one of these, you would think it was brand new. Round a tight corner then. A little bit sideways, a little bit sideways. Nothing crazy there. Well, that was surprising. After all those miles, this Mercedes still feels as composed as it did when it was new. All the controls work and nothing even feels loose. It's even pretty fun to drive. So, in conclusion, I'd say don't be afraid of the miles. What I would be afraid of though is the service history, as I truly believe if you look after the car, it will look after you. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give us a like and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more videos like this one, you can see everything we have for sale. Anyway, my name's Tom and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.